All right, hey everybody, welcome back. Thank you guys so much, everybody who has subscribed to the new channel. We're very excited that you found us. Very excited here that we've been doing all these great shows, whether it's Big Thing and obviously now Sith Council. We've been doing these rewatches. The Phantom Menace that Steph and I did last week, that's at 10,000 views and climbing. So this experiment has been working, and I saw all the interest on Attack of the Clones. Well, you're going to get it today because it's me, Steph Sabraw, and the Inner Geekdom champion of the world, Mike Kalinowski, and we are going to be talking about Attack of the Clones in just a moment here. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's get to it.
I can feel your anger. It gives you focus, makes you stronger.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Sith Council. This is the Attack of the Clones deep dive. Rewatch the movies and going to be discussing them with these two characters. She joined me last week as Dar Sabraw. What's up, Steph?
What's up? I was reading the comments of my Gungalorian.
I didn't say anything to you last week. Did you notice how I didn't say a word?
I rewatched it. I kept calling the Gungans
The Gungalorians.
The entire episode?
Like
and you didn't
times.
stop her?
No.
He didn't stop me once.
Jesus.
It was too adorable, to be honest. The Gungalorians, and plus, it kind of sounds better.
Yeah, it
than
does.
The
The
Gungans.
Gungans? Gungalorians.
Yeah,
The
I think I
Gungans.
was on to something.
Yeah, the Gungans, the Gungalorians, hookers, because that's not what we're talking about. There's only a few Gungalorians in this one, but we are talking about Attack of the Clones. And I'm going to start right away, and it's a funny thing because Steph came in and we were setting up, and she goes, "I got to be honest, I didn't mind watching this movie, nor did I. I did not mind watching it." And Mike, obviously, right away, he's got to watch this movie probably 1,000 times over for preparation for his match, even for
your
coming
idea
up.
of doing this was great because it was like, I have not watched those films in a long, I'd say a good year.
Yeah.
Because I've been focusing on all the new films. So I was like, all right, let's do it.
Did you wind up watching Phantom Menace again, even though you missed
I
it
did.
last week?
Yeah, I
Okay,
had
cool.
to.
Yeah.
I like Phantom Menace. I've said that many a time. I'm sorry I missed last week because I would love to talk about that. That's one on revisits. Really,
It gets better.
better and better.
Yeah, I
for
agree.
me.
I
It's
agree.
got a lot of charm of the original trilogy for me. Whereas this one, it's like takes a deep dive into hell.
Here's
for
what
me.
I'm going to say about this movie overall. That in watching it, I noticed that my opinion has not changed on how bad the dialogue is.
Yeah.
It's really bad. The dialogue is atrocious. Some of the cutting is really bad. The acting choices, because of bad directing, that's all still there. There's a lot of different times, and Anakin comes off as a creep a lot of the times in the beginning. Even he's angry the whole damn movie, and I realize even when he goes off and he finally has that moment when he kills all the sand people, he if you would have built up to that, like him, he's basically been a good, like, happy, cheerful dude for the most part, or calm, and then that comes out of him, right? I think it would have more impact. But with all that being said, what I did notice is that you look at the overall story of that film, it's a great story. It's a great story. The whole, everything about it, the story itself, and it just shows that maybe the same way that I'm sure Empire, great story, then he got Kirshner to do it and it became phenomenal. I still say,
Okay. Oh, so you're saying.
I feel that this same story could have been done with a different director and had George been there and been around, because George is a brilliant storyteller. His stories are great.
Yeah, that's undeniable.
Even the beginning of it, I mean, because the opening scene, it's the acting behind it is like, it looks like I was wrong, nothing bad's gonna happen, boom, and then it's like, okay, you got to watch it like a Clone Wars episode. You really do. You got to watch it like.
What I love about this rewatch is I notice stuff that I've never, and how many times I've watched these films I've never noticed before. That explosion, I think it's Dorme that dies, right? Yeah, Dorme. Like, that explosion hit her so hard, it knocked her shoes off.
Oh, really?
She's laying there barefoot. I was like,
that's
she
pretty
got
great.
knocked out of her own shoes
Yeah.
in that explosion. I was like, never noticed that before in my
Yeah.
life. I'm like, what? Pretty strong explosion.
Yeah. No, I'm with you, Christian, but even more so, every time I watch any of the prequels specifically, I feel a little bit different about them. But this time, I really enjoyed it because I do like the story. I like all the beats that it had. I like what happens on Coruscant.
You're a love story girl, aren't you?
Yeah, I like what
story.
happens on Naboo. I like what happens on Geonosis. Like, all of those things I like. I thought there was great action in it. And if you look at it through the lens of a romance, you change your mind a little bit. But I get that if you were coming off of episode 1 and you know the story, you expected it to be an Anakin downfall primarily.
Well, I mean, sure, but even knowing, if you look at the story as a whole, that she is now no longer the queen. She's a senator. She needs to get to the Senate in order to vote to get this thing moving, and someone is trying to kill her.
Yeah.
Right. Now there's a bounty hunter involved. Why is Jango Fett involved? Who's hiring him right now? And here comes and Palpatine playing his. Well, I have an idea. Why don't we have the Jedi do it? And you have Obi-Wan. So he knows full well that Anakin's with him, and he knows what's about to happen, and he's setting it up. Brilliant. Gets there. They do their thing, and then he's so angry and pissy right away when he gets there. He's just like, I haven't seen her in 10 years, master. And it's like, calm the F down, dude. Like she
didn't even notice me.
Right. And well, apparently, look, you know what? Whatever you're doing, it's working because you just said you murdered kids, and she's just like, it's okay to get angry. He just said he murdered children.
And women.
He's like,
nothing.
He goes,
I slaughtered them.
Like animals. They're animals. I hate them. And he's shaking his lip. And I was like, how does she react to this? And she goes, we all get angry.
Yeah, she stood still and then sat down. I was like, oh no, this is like.
She's now, and she goes, I got to get back to my Jeffrey Dahmer biopic.
Oh my God. Yeah, there's so many parts where I just am watching Padme. I'm like, you're going to let that fly?
She lets a lot of stuff fly. And even when he's just like in the beginning, when he's in the room with her and she's like, I don't like this. It makes me uncomfortable. He goes, all right, my lady. Like staring at her. But anyway, back to the story. But the story itself. Yeah, right. But the story itself is great. It's Obi-Wan working with this kid who still is he's leading with passion, and and then you see how his instincts are working, and they save her. They go through this whole thing to try this mystery of why is this bounty hunter getting involved? Why is this happening in general? And they have to do this investigation, and then the idea, the manipulation of Sidious and saying, all right, here's basically what we're gonna do. Dooku, right? Yeah. Go and get these idiots on your side, right? They have an army already. They have this big army. We've been working on this other army for 10 years with that putz Seyfo-Dyas. He's gone now, right? So what we're going to do is now we're going to get it to the forefront. We're going to make it work. Once we find out, once we get it out there that the droids are out there and they have this army, I'll get one of these idiots to vote me in. I'll have supreme. I'll be the ruler of the galaxy, basically. I'll okay the clones. We got our war, and then it starts.
Bingo bongo, we're off to war.
But it's really a great story when you look at it all on that way. But it's just the dialogue stuff that comes in, and Christopher Lee plays that scene beautifully when Obi-Wan is caught, and he's like, "Oh no, this is madness. They've gone too far." Like he's full of crap.
I may have trouble securing your release.
Right now,
he walks out. Like, I may have trouble.
That was the most Sith moment in the entire, from what the actual, what Sith are all about, the manipulation, all of that, the corruption, and what he's able to do. And he's just such a, I don't love the way that they took him out, but he's really great in this movie.
Yeah, he really is. He's definitely one of the pluses. He adds depth to the film in a way
it's like you and McGregor in there.
Yeah, I thought they did a good job with the villains. Yeah, exactly. But it does, the Anakin turn makes the Daenerys turn seem like it was done well.
Oh, you mean from episode
Game
3?
of Thrones? I'm saying like you. No.
Oh,
I'm
in this one,
Anakin, leading up to what he.
Why he just gets mad.
Know. It's just so intense the entire time.
There's no levels to it. He's angry and he's mad the entire movie. And even when he shows up, it's just like it gets better in episode 3. I remember that totally. He's way more calm.
Yeah,
and
3 is much better.
And when you watch Clone Wars, they do such a great balance. And I'm sure George was aware of it. He's like, maybe he was a little too angry.
Yeah.
Because he levels off from everything that happens in Attack of the Clones leading up to Revenge of the Sith. He levels off, and because you've got to get to that moment. But you got to get to that moment when Obi-Wan says about Anakin he was a great friend. Because in the second one, he doesn't look like a great friend. He's like a whiny kid.
He's complaining about Obi-Wan the entire time.
Every time. Opening scene of Revenge of the Sith, you feel like they're great friends.
100%.
That builds
and,
up.
and because of the animated series, it ties up.
That was his first big movie, so it's like I give a lot of leeway to actors, especially like that starting. Yeah. I'm always much like I think he did one film before that.
So there's the scene when he is when she's packing up and getting ready to go to Naboo with him, right? And he's talking about he starts complaining and he goes, "It's worse." And he's just complaining about it.
He's overly critical.
Yeah, right. But he just starts getting into it with her and complaining right away. And there's just no build up to it. And I remember watching the scene with him and going, I'm telling you, because from what you've heard about George Lucas, he's just like, all right, say the lines, go. And he was not as focused in on the performance as much. He was like, it looks great, because it does. It looks beautiful. This is actually, I said it last time, I was wrong. This was the first digital movie. Phantom Menace was still on film.
Yeah.
But it was, I mean, the movie looks gorgeous. There's a lot of, from everything that he was doing technology-wise, looks great. But I think because Hayden Christensen was really his first big movie, he was given a little too much of like, just go do it great.
Yeah. Where
that might have been a first take of what he did. And it's like, was I too angry? Was it this? Because someone should have said to him, let's level it down a little bit because everything's there.
Yeah.
He's good. And I'm excited he's coming back.
He was acting like he knew exactly what Darth Vader would become. Like the entire time. But I like Hayden Christensen, and I don't have a problem with Anakin the way other people do. And when I watch the film and I watch without a critical eye, which I tried to do last night, really enjoyed it. But when you watch with a critical eye and you see like his conversations with Padme, it is kind of, I wonder in the writing process, they were like, let's make the most toxic man in a relationship ever.
Well, I don't even know if they were even thinking like that though, too, because because you don't really understand why she falls for him in this movie, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you really don't, because and you don't really necessarily understand why he falls for her, because she's pretty mean to him from the second that she's like, oh, and like the dialogue in the beginning of it when it comes to when he's like, you know, oh, I've thought about you every day, and she goes, oh, you'll always be that little boy from Tatooine. Like, what? What are you
and then
about?
like I've noticed a few things. It's like, you know, he's like, she didn't even recognize me. And then I think it's 3PO that's like, I've never seen her this happy in years. I'm like, what?
Yeah, that's
what
like
just
the
happened
little
there?
way.
Like, but also it goes to itself. Like Natalie Portman, you cannot fault, who's a great actress. In these films, she's not good. I think certain actors need to be directed.
Yeah,
they need a director. Like I cannot wait.
She's also really young too.
Yeah, and I didn't really care for her in the first Thor, you know. But I'm sure like a director like Taika Waititi will she'll be the star of that film, this new Love and Thunder. I can guarantee she's got
to be excited. I mean, you know, as an actor, you got to be excited about the what you're working on, right? And I think because of the way that and you look at the difference of what they do with Mandalorian and what they've had to do, and what they just didn't have the technology in 2001 when they shot this thing. But like, when you look at it, there's so much more that you can do as an actor in the Mandalorian with this new technology. You feel like you're on set. You feel. It was hard for them to be on blue screen, green screen. And if you don't have a director in there that's really focused on the performance, you get some of the stuff that you got in it.
Yeah.
And I think, for me, that's the reason why I love Phantom Menace more so than the Revenge of the Sith and Attack of the Clones. Revenge of the Sith, you can see they were still on location. They still had sets. And they made a big point, you know, with digital, everything with the two, Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. They were just on a blue stage. That's all they were on. They didn't even have anything else to look at. But so you got someone like Ewan McGregor, who's a theater actor and is known for building the worlds out of nothing. He knows what he's doing, and he worked through all three of them. He's consistent. Where those other actors, they need a little more direction than, hey, that's a ball up there, and that's going to be a 10-foot tall so-and-so, so react to this.
It's
different.
That scene where he goes to visit an old friend to get information about the bounty hunter, his eye line really matches. Yeah, like he really kept you in the scene.
It's funny because that scene that you're talking about, the Dex, the diner, like I had a conversation with Ken on the big thing of the week. Him and Joseph Scrimshaw did 2 hours on that scene alone.
On the one scene?
On that one scene, and why it was one of the most pivotal moments in Star Wars history, right?
Really?
I haven't listened to the episode yet, so I don't know what they went. But it's Joseph Scrimshaw, so you've got my attention because he always finds a way to really make you go, oh, wow.
Yeah.
And Ken too, obviously, but just something about the way Joseph analyzes it. But I watched that scene last night with that in mind and and I enjoyed the scene a little bit more, even though not necessarily listening, because I watched it. I'm curious
because I'm like, are they talking about?
It's a Camino. It's
no, I know the scene, but I'm just like, what they spent 2 hours talking about. Like, do they mean it's pivotal in the sense of how much information is dumped into the film, which builds the Star Wars universe?
I think so because
or as a filmmaker, this scene was written with in mind.
I think Star Wars in general.
Okay, so why? Because he dumps info ridiculous,
tons of it,
the Mishi Rays and
all
this
of
and that. And you're just like, what?
I want to listen to their episode, but I thought of you when Steph they
Rishi Mays
when they went back when they went to Camino. How do you not think of Bad Batch like immediately?
Yeah, 100%, and it made me like it more.
Bad Batch.
No,
Yeah.
it made me
Oh.
like the part in the movie more and Bad Batch more because they like touched on a part that Kamino's such an interesting place and it means so much to the world that they're building, especially
They're
with
cloners.
Yeah, exactly. And so I enjoyed that scene in a different way.
Yeah, I did too. I enjoyed a lot of the lead up to, and it, as I mentioned to you guys, I started to really like look at the story, and I used to watch Attack of the Clones, going, oh man, this is going to be a tough one to watch. But I didn't feel that way last night watching it. I really didn't. I felt I was like, okay, I'm never going to change my opinion on the fact that the dialogue's terrible. I'm never going to change my opinion that I think that certain things could have been acted better with better direction, right? But the story, man, I was really into the story, and I think it's because it does loop into a lot of stuff. I found myself liking that Dexter, what's his name?
Dexter Jetster.
Dexter Jetster. Watching that scene more.
Basilisk.
I want to know a little bit more about their relationship now because they're such like him and Obi-Wan. Yeah, they're buddies, and I was like, it was kind of a sweet scene when I watched it last night, as opposed to being. And I think because I'm so used to Clone Wars now, animation, like when we watched the prequels the first time, the only thing we knew was the original trilogy.
Yeah,
that was what Star Wars was, and it was like, wait a minute. This is not what I remember. This is it looks like a cartoon. It's like there's too much of it. But when you have all this other material through Clone Wars and hell, even video games and comics and all these different things that have now shown you what this era looked like, it's more, I don't know. I felt myself accepting it way more. Like when you said it this morning, Steph, you're like, I enjoyed watching it. And I did too. You know, the story is there.
And they really, I know people don't love the green screen and the blue screen, but I will say like a lot of the shots that you have that are further out of the different planets that we land on, that's really cool world building that like now I know and I think of every time it's mentioned or referenced in any piece of Star Wars I'm reading or watching.
Yes, absolutely. And just to let everybody know, so Mike's defending is going up to play Change Your Dawn to Pawnee today. It'll be on the Schmodown channel at 2 p.m. PST. He actually has an interview with a sports radio show right now. So he had to leave us. So Steph and I will. Steph, can I grab you in that seat because I'm gonna move Steph, and we're gonna have Steph is gonna take over for the mic. That's you guys are watching everything kind of go through here.
BTS.
Yeah, there we go. So here she's sitting. So Steph's Sabraw now. Steph and myself. Steph, so go ahead. So you were talking about let's talk a little bit about the fact with Jango Fett and everything on Kamino.
I loved what happened on Kamino. I think Jango Fett he didn't have a lot of dialogue, which probably worked in his benefit for why people love that character so much and why he just set the entire tone for I think the obsession we're seeing now with Book of Boba coming out and Boba Fett in general. And I thought what they did with him and Obi-Wan, the entire chase, and that being kind of the B plot of the film in a way, really worked.
Yeah.
I love that from beginning to end, and the way that he died hit. I mean, the decapitation.
It's brutal, and especially because first Boba Fett inside of that when you first see him on Kamino, he's a little bastard. Right?
Yeah.
It's just like because he's Jango Fett. I mean, he is, and he's just even like he's like laughing as the guy as shooting rockets off him, and there's a little New York in Jango Fett. He's like this guy doesn't want to quit this guy. And it was but that tragic scene that eventually turns Boba that sticks with him. You know, and you can see and Tamara Morrison plays this so beautifully, even in really Mandalorian, where he doesn't mention it, but you can still see the sadness of that moment in Attack of the Clones through, through his performance, I thought.
Yeah, I think that was another point to the film, like the difference, even though that was a lot lighter than what they did with Anakin and Shmi, like losing a parent and the way that they did that with those two, I actually thought was really well done. It was really effective, especially if you think about the franchise as a whole and where they take those individual stories.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of moments in I'm gonna try to. So you're not Mike Kalinowski.
Oh,
but
I can be.
You can be.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna try to watch. So you're gonna see. You guys have been watching. We have a little bit of as you probably all saw. There's a little bit of a technical glitch. You're gonna hear the screen. You're gonna hear that. I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna do a little thing here. So you guys will see behind the curtain of how I do this. And that's Ken. I hate a lot of this stuff. I hate a lot of this stuff. Anyway, so keep going.
Another part that I really liked that I wanted to give benefit to was that I don't always love the way Padme acts, and we just talked about it. Right. It's really subdued. It's really monotone. There's not a lot of attitude, but when she is on Geonosis, I think that we see like the most badass side of Padme that we never get to see. She's supposed to have a bit of Leia. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. She's supposed to have the best shoot in like a straight on deadly shoot, and that's where Leia gets that, and that's a call to it. And you don't know that unless you've read the books and comics and like understand the character, because they don't really show it. But with that back knowledge and then watching that, when she like uses her bobby pin to take her handcuffs off, I like that. I
liked a lot of the stuff that they did in that overall. This is something this morning. I don't know why it is. For a lot of people who are watching, if you're watching the video, for some reason it's like glitching. It glitches when we do Sith Council sometimes, but it's
can't capture our beauty fast enough.
What it is, I don't know why it's doing this, but what are you gonna do? Anyway, so that scene you can easily say throughout the entire thing, if you want to keep jumping back into it, that sometimes it's too cartoony, sometimes it's this. But I took those goggles off, and I went into watching it like a Clone Wars episode, because there's a lot of things that I still like, the C-3PO stuff, right? I don't understand why we had to make Anakin make him. We didn't talk about that in Phantom Menace when we did it last week. I don't understand why, because even though you erased his memory and all that, you never erased R2-D2's. R2-D2 keeps a secret the whole time that he's very aware about he never brings it up. I was watching it, as much as I loved having R2-D2 around and C-3PO around inside of those movies, they could have been different droids. They could have been very different droids. The scene the goofy scene when C-3PO is, R2's a dick, by the way. Like,
yeah, totally.
Pushes him into the thing. Like, he didn't know he was going to land on that crate, and he could have just thrown him into lava.
Like Timon and Pumbaa. Yeah, he did just throw him off.
He's like, "What are you doing? Stop pushing me." He's like, "I'm going to murder you." And he's like, "Oh, you got lucky." You got lucky.
That part makes it a little bit more. That was the Disney part, like the kid part of it.
Yeah, it was a kiddish part of it for sure. It was way more cartoony. Because then you flip to the same thing going on with Padme and Anakin going through that. That made more sense to me that they had to go through it. It's still a little goofy, but the fact that they have to go through that, it's just it added a little bit more time that wasn't necessary, right? Because C-3PO becomes a fool throughout this entire movie when his body gets taken apart, and he's on a droid. For some reason, he turns into a vicious droid, and he's like, "I can't believe that I'm doing this."
Yeah, that was unnecessary.
It was, but the stuff with the Jedi coming in there, and it's still, how do you still not get goosebumps the first time that clone army comes in and Yoda's riding in the chopper like Nom?
That's exactly how I feel. Or when Mace pulls up on Dooku, like, I liked that part. That was really cool. And then you see all of these Jedi
getting wiped out.
Yeah, all of the lightsabers out. It was in a pretty sick battle scene it was like 5 minutes.
It was good. As you already have told us, we jump around. There's just a lot of moments inside of this thing that I am glad, though, because I was curious how I was going to watch it, right? I was curious if I was going to be like, all right, is this going to be a tough one to get through? And I really did feel like just put on an episode of the Clone Wars, started checking it out, watching it as it was going through, and then saying to myself as I'm watching it, let's look at the story and does it all play, right? And the stuff with Owen and Shmi and Klieg, Lars, is that the
Klieg?
He's really good in that scene, and the fact that, like, because he winds up buying Shmi from Watto. You have that whole scene with Watto where he recognizes Anakin and lets him know. And Anakin doesn't do anything to Watto. That was one scene where Watto, he's got flies buzzing him around him and stuff. What a way for Watto. Watto was like living high when we saw him in Phantom Menace, and now he stinks. He's got like bugs around him and stuff too, and people are ripping him off.
Yeah, he's just totally
just living in an alley.
Yeah,
he's just I got any payment from anybody. Oh, my clothes are 10 years old, Annie.
He's trying to get Annie to do side missions.
Yeah, and he's like, "Shut up, stupid. Where's my mother?"
You sold my mom.
Yeah, but I like that he's just, and then because I thought about it, I was like, well, where are they exactly, and what part of the planet, and he's like, oh my God, they're on like the other side, dude, looking like Mos Eisley. And I'm like, oh, that's pretty great too. And you get to that scene where we first meet Uncle Owen, or Owen, as you will, and Beru, who are still, I mean, you talk about aging. I mean, they're super young, and in a matter of 20 years, they look like they're 80. I mean, the sun on Tatooine will do you dirty.
Shreds. No SPF out there.
No, and which I guess makes sense, but because it turns out that his father was actually 26, and he looks like he's 7. But they have that whole conversation of what happened. You know, he's like, look. We tried, man. She's been out there for a month. Good luck. He's like, I'm going to get her. He's like, she's dead. He's like, I'm going to get her. Loved all that. Like it was him going there, and they have that great silhouetted scene when Padme comes out. She's wearing the blue. She's got the midriff. She's walking over.
Padme's outfits
out of control.
Every single one is a banger.
Yeah, that one. No, it's just look. There could be the argument of like wear some sandals and some shorts. What are you doing over here? But she decided to wear. She's almost looking like Princess Jasmine in that.
100%.
But she
needed to be covered from the sand. It's coarse, according to Anakin.
Right. Which I don't know why. I mean, the line is stupid as hell, but it didn't bother me as much as it's like one of those main lines that everyone always kind of quotes how stupid it is. Like it's. I know we're jumping around, but it just all these memories that are come flying. The silliest part. Yeah. I don't know if you laugh. I remember being in the theater and people laughing when they kiss. The music is blaring, right? It's like, na, 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 and then they kiss and it just stops.
When she backs up.
Mike and Changer are on they're on sports radio right now, yelling at each other, and Mike is like looking. I can see Mike screaming at him through the. I cannot wait to listen to that interview.
Yes, yeah. I was like.
The music just stops.
It's so funny because Star Wars, the thing that doesn't miss is the music.
Yeah.
And I feel like that was like a joke. It was like played like a sitcom.
It's weird because it shuts out. And if you listen, though, it's not off completely. It's just lowered down. And because it's still there, but it plays
like a record scratch.
It is. It's a record scratch. It plays very comical. And then, but that particular thing was pretty funny. But anyway, going back to
Tatooine.
But back to Tatooine, and he goes off, and he's there, and he. There's that heartbreaking moment where she sees him finally, and she realizes, like, she was holding on just for that hope, and she does, and she lets go. And it's a powerful moment. I still think, and I think a lot of people think this, that they should have showed a lot more on the devastation and destruction of what he did. I also don't think it's necessary that he killed the women and the children.
I agree completely, because if you want to talk about a progressive turn,
yes,
then you wouldn't have already got, like, that would have made the killing the younglings that much worse, because you had no familiarity.
You knew he was capable
children.
of it once he did it.
Yeah, exactly.
So and how Padme comes off as pretty racist.
Yeah.
Because he says, I killed them all, the women, the children, all of them. She's like, yeah, they're just sand people. Yeah, right? And we all get angry.
After Padme's supposed to be the humanitarian of the entire
right.
group.
She doesn't say, listen, you could have handled that better, dude. Like, I get being angry about your mom, but you just murdered people. I got to turn you in. You just killed people. She's killed sand people.
Officially become an enabler.
100% she has. And then she's just like, listen, I want to let you know, I wasn't digging you at first. But now that we're about to die, I have to be honest. Something about you saying you killed all the kids and the women turned me on.
Madly.
I madly
deeply
love you.
Love you.
He's like, that's all I got to do? All right.
Also, lesson to everyone, like, I don't think you should feel like you're in pain when you're with the person that you're going to spend their life with.
It's brutal. It's a lot of the stuff just didn't. But jumping back to what I said, though, the story itself of the fact that this guy wants to act on these feelings, if you would have been smoother throughout it and like seeing that something's there and playing with the audience, and the audience is going, oh man, I think he's actually got something for her. Because the second you see him, he's just like, I haven't seen her in 10 years. I'm so excited. You're like, oh, okay. Well, this guy's already head over heels. He's like a stalker.
Yeah.
And because the story of them and the protection, and then even if she would have been like, let's go for this, and he's just like, I can't, because I'm supposed to be here to protect you, and this, and she's like, if she would have been the one that's like, we should be acting on this.
Yeah.
And he's like realizing, and they both together, as it's just there was just something missing. But the story itself makes a lot of sense. It's
I
all there.
agree,
It's all there.
When I watch it, I do love a lot of parts about their romance and their love. But then
the idea of it.
The idea of it, and then there's moments where he kills people. He says, "I shouldn't have done that.
Right.
That's not what Jedi do." Or he gets out a little angry. He's like, "I shouldn't have done that. That's not what Jedi do." It's like, but you did do that.
You did. You just murdered a whole bunch of people.
Why are you keep saying that? You did that.
And if it was just, and not that it would have made it any better, but like if he would have just taken out all the people who killed his mother and tortured his, because the women and the children, they had nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
Right? They're just part of the. If all of those the sand people were the ones who were torturing people and everything too, you'd be like, wow, that was brutal. But those guys, they're torturing people and killing people. So,
and that's the part of the dark side that's more alluring.
Right.
Like that's the part that if I was a Jedi, I would start to say like, oh, I do like.
I understand why you did that.
Empathize with that. Like
Right.
they killed your mom. I would want some revenge.
Well, think about it. I mean, that's like society in general,
Yeah.
right? Like there's a lot of times I saw this thing recently, this YouTube video where this guy in prison, he was in for murder, right? But he killed his cellmate because the guy was a child molester.
Oh.
And he killed him. And you done? Mike's done. So he killed the guy, and he just talked. You can jump back in and see. Yeah, but Wait, sorry, now we'll switch it over. But I'll tell this story while they get resituated. So anyway, he kills this guy, and he says, "Yeah, I did it." The guy just he was bragging about it. There was too much, and even all the comments were like, "Well, the judge was like, wait, why did you do it? He tripped and fell. You're up. No, I killed the guy. Oh, he tripped and fell." No, they're writing it in the comments of like because you understood you can't take justice into your own hands, but you understand.
Sometimes
you understand, but you understand it. But Mike, so first of all, before we let me get back here. Now we got. It's no longer Steph Sabraw. It's Mike Kalinowski.
The seat's warm. Thank you, Steph.
No worries.
So first of all, before we get into it, what happened? You had a sports radio meeting with Chandru, and how did it go?
How do you think it went? How do you think it went?
What happened? Tell me.
So they're like,
because this is a sports radio, sports byline.
Yeah,
Great show.
Two great hosts. They were, and Chandru is, I'm trying to be respectful. We're on a public forum, trying to, let's put the cards out there, and he goes right for the jugular instantly. But he's like I said on the internet, but he's like that neighbor next door that is annoying. That lives there. People are like, he lives in your head rent free. No, he doesn't. He's got his own property next door, Yeah. But I walk down and take my dog out, and I step in dog shit, and it's Chandru.
Poop.
It's not even dog. It's Chandru taking a dump on the sidewalk. And he's like, I got you, Mike. And I was like,
Did the guys have a blast?
Oh yeah, we had a great time.
Good. All right. Well,
they want to join the Schmodown. She's like, I know classic movies. Can I play? I'm like, yeah. The two of you. Go and be a team and come on in and see how you're going to do.
So everybody always says it's like, I love the idea. People want to come in for
do
some
it.
fun.
And they hear the questions.
And they want.
Well, that's what he asked me. Like,
the pros.
Give me a deep cut IG question. So I gave him the dummy and you. Yeah. I was like, that's what it is. And I well, we'll do the classic questions. Like, okay, go into that.
All right. So anyway, don't forget, everybody. That's today at 2 p.m. PST. Mike Kalinowski.
What am I even doing here?
I know. I know. Well, so it happens 2 p.m. PST on the Schmodown channel. But Mike, what we were talking about, we were going back to the Tatooine scene when he gets revenge on the sand people. He said, what would have happened? What I think would have been pretty effective, because you need that scene. You need that scene in general because it's part of the turn, right? It's not the overall turn, but it's a part of the turn. But Steph and I were saying we think it would have been a little bit more effective if he goes in there, murders all the sand people who were torturing people, torturing his mother, because you as an audience member would look and say, well, I don't know if we needed to murder all of them, but I get it.
But didn't you feel, because you knew he's Vader, you're like, yeah, this is what we're going to expect from him.
Well, yes, you knew that was in there, but like I don't think it was because you didn't see it, all you saw was him. He takes out the two guys, cuts their heads off, takes out another guy, and then it goes away too fast, right?
Yeah.
And then he talks about how he killed the women and the children. I don't think that was
slaughtered them.
I don't think it was necessary. I don't think saying the women and the children part of it was necessary. I think you could have said, I killed every single one of those marauders.
That never bothers me.
I beheaded them. I did. I just don't. It's
too quick.
It takes away from the younglings.
It takes away from the younglings is what we were thinking, and like that.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
There was no stepping point.
Yeah.
Now, do you think
And you would empathize with the character more.
You care a little bit more. You understand why.
You get it.
Yeah,
that's your mom.
You get it. You get the fire.
Do you feel then that maybe that's one of those things that when they're doing Revenge of the Sith, is like, maybe
they pull back on him.
Said that.
They pull back on Revenge of the Sith, and I look forward even more so watching
moment
it
was
next
so
week.
much stronger.
Yeah, because they pull back next because his performance is significantly better from 2 to 3. He's less whiny. Remember, he's like, you understand. He's gone through that progression of what he has gone through in Clone Wars, the animated series, into this.
I'm just thinking about when you even worse, like just some of his lines when he's just so teen angsty.
Yeah.
I feel bad because like, how do you deliver that and it not be
Do
that?
you ever feel in our great friend Nathan Bigelow? He said this before because he thought about this when we were thinking about this. If we would have gotten Anakin, the Anakin in Kristian in episode 2, if we would have gotten that in episode 1, started it
100%.
at that age, so we do see the whiny kid.
Yes,
that's how it starts.
Attack of the Clones. All right, he's coming around, and then 3, he's a young adult. Where he's like,
or you have him, or
he's the opposite of whiny. He's an annoying little kid, as all kids are annoying, and like very like excited, and you like that about Anakin. That's the point of him.
As much as Phantom Menace, I keep, like we all said, keep coming around on it as a movie. Steph and I talked about this last week in this book by Chris Taylor, How Star Wars Conquered the Universe. He talks about there was a back and forth where he was going to make Anakin a teenager. That's how he's going to start it. And like Coppola and a lot of people are like, do that. Make him a teenager.
Yeah.
And he's like, and they're like, I've been making him a kid. Don't make him a kid. Make him a teenager.
Yeah.
Because if he starts that way, right, then it leads up to, I always thought Revenge of the end of episode 2 would be him either turning into Vader, or the beginning of 3 is him turning into Vader, and the majority of the movie is him hunting it down. But
in like, not the full Vader regala, but
he can be full. He can be. You could have that scene with him and Anakin maybe at the end of 2, where because the Mustafar scene, that's something we'll get into in episode 3. There's a heavy use of the CGI stuff in 3 that I think their relationship was strong enough inside of emotion that you didn't need to be jumping on certain things. You could have just like. Did you guys watch Lost?
No. I could not get into that show.
All right, there's a scene at the very, I believe it's the season finale of Lost, where Jack and Locke are fighting, and they're fighting on this like island, and I immediately went to, oh man, it's so powerful. There's not a lot of CGI to see them like fighting on this mountain because of everything they've gone through, and I immediately thought of what would happen inside of Anakin and Obi-Wan. But the other reference that I made many times over is this one I know you've seen, X-Men First Class.
Yeah.
Have you watched that one yet?
Yeah.
Okay, so James Fassbender's turn.
Michael Fassbender?
What did I say? James Fassbender? Sorry. Yeah.
Close enough.
Thank you. Well, that's why you have the belt, and I have up at 4:30 in the morning with a dog.
I have to see.
I'll bring him out. Okay. I'll bring him out later. But anyway, Michael Fassbender. I put James McAvoy in my.
I know what you did.
But anyway,
I know what you're
his
doing.
turn from it to me was the Anakin turn, that this progression that we're talking about, because he starts off in that movie as this kid who's gone through this tragedy and watching
a teenager,
but watching what he's gone through, during the war, and what happened to his parents, and what happened to his to the millions of Jews that happened to, and he watched all of it, and he saw it during World War II and the pain that he had throughout it, and he carried that anger in him, because when he starts in that movie, he's not a bad guy. He's looking for he's looking to get revenge. But Fassbender McAvoy says to him, channel it, chill.
Yeah.
Right? And he's like, all right. And they start working together. And then when there's that turn at the end where he just, I've had enough, boom. And he winds up having that whole thing. That was, to me, the most, that was like what I would
Yeah, and it's funny you say that, because then they, over the past next 3 films, they went back to that same thing. He's like, I'm going to be good again. I'm going to turn again.
Right.
Yeah, they
it's
like
right.
another
Did
direction.
they butcher that?
He could have started even if he wanted to keep him a kid in episode 1. He could have been angry. He had every right. He was a child slave, and his mom was also a slave too. Like, he didn't need to be that happy.
Yeah, but he didn't understand. Like, as a kid, he was
true.
just like, I'm fixing fan belts for Watto. I can go here, Watto.
But I'm saying, if you're
Like,
going
you're a
to
slave,
make him
kid.
angsty as a teenager,
Right.
Yeah.
then keep him either happy or the angst.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
You can have an attitude. You can have an attitude. You should have
As
an
a
attitude.
teen, have an attitude?
Luke had an attitude, for God's sakes. You know, like Luke.
I'm never getting out of here.
100%.
100%.
Luke was pissed off the same way too, but Luke was also Luke had that balance, right?
Yeah.
Like in episode 4, like he is so
Luke,
bored
where are
to
you
tears.
going? Going nowhere, I guess.
100, but absolutely, that's
Yeah.
but
that's
you know
us
what it
at
was?
that age. That's us.
Yes,
Totally.
but you know what I think the difference is, and goes back to the difference in performance is that, and I'm so happy that the fact that Hayden Christensen now. People like are so thrilled to have him back.
Oh, I'm
he
so
gets
proud.
he
now
went
he
through
gets
the
now he gets
meat grinder.
He sure did. Now people like cheer and scream when he shows up at things now, because if you compare the two performances in episode 2, the first time you see Anakin and Luke, you can't compare them, because here's the difference. Luke is likable.
Yeah.
Even if he's whining and everything too,
Yeah.
he's likable. Hayden ain't likable in this movie.
No,
he's just not.
I want to say it was 2004. Was it Shattered Glass? Is that the name of the film?
Yeah, but I remember even earlier, 2003. I think.
Yeah. He's great.
Great in that.
Great in it.
It's not.
So,
it's not him. It is. There's no chance. That's why I cannot wait.
He's
so
gonna be great in
so
it.
this actually ties into all of it. Did you guys get a chance yet to watch the gallery episode on Mandalorian? It might have just dropped last
it
night.
just dropped.
so-
It dropped like 2 days ago. I've not.
No.
We're the Luke one, right?
The Luke one.
No, I didn't
No,
watch
not
it.
So
yet.
I did watch it. But you know that, and we've talked about this. You know, they brought in the deep fake guy.
Right.
So there was a deep fake guy they hired.
Yeah, it was.
So they talk about it in the Mandalorian, this gallery series. They talk about they went through stages of how they were going to do Luke.
I did see that. It was
I-
like
there was-
makeup was one.
Makeup was one.
deep fake.
Deep fake and de-aging.
Yeah.
So they went with de-aging. De-aging is what they did for Michael Douglas and Kurt Russell. Our eyes are still it was pretty noticeable. We were cool with it, the Luke thing, but we've had these conversations where, like, if you're gonna do that for full episodes or more, no, it
ain't gonna work.
It ain't gonna work. But then you look at what this kid's doing for the deep fake stuff, and you're like, wow, you could really do some interesting stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that's why they hired him. But I started thinking about this, why they brought this kid in. I think we're going to see flashback scenes with Hayden Christensen and Obi-Wan in the Clone Wars era, having more of these conversations through the he was a great friend type thing.
Like
So you're going to see
Clone Wars
flashbacks
style.
to fighting in that nest of Gundarks?
Maybe, but we're going to see them younger,
Yeah.
and we're going to see them as friends having conversations. And I think that, Hayden Christensen is 20 years older now. 20 years is easier to de-age than because they show Mark Hamill. Mark Hamill was in the full gear, by
Yeah.
the way.
Oh, I know.
He's a 60-something-year-old man. You can just tell that
Yeah.
he's significantly. They look like two different people.
Yeah.
So it's not hard. More work to then transfer over.
Yeah, I
and
think
do
the Hayden
stuff.
stuff will work well.
I think it'll
Really
work really
well.
well. So
And
I'm
Ewan
excited to
McGregor, he
see
doesn't
it.
look much different than he
No.
did 20 years
He
ago.
looks
No,
the same.
but it fits, and for where he is in the story, it actually fits. They're
Yeah,
gonna-
oh, yeah. He's
like the
it's
perfect
perfect,
age for
perfect
it.
age. But with Hayden, you don't, because my thing was, you don't just bring Hayden Christensen back to put him in the Vader outfit. It's like,
No.
because if you put him in the outfit, and
That makes sense because he is in the outfit at that point.
he's in the outfit during that time. He's going to be in the outfit. But the thing is, with his face, they'll probably have a couple. Like they've shown that scene before, like when Ahsoka fought him and he cut him through.
Yeah.
They'll probably have something like that, but it's not going to be the whole thing. So
No.
why do you bring him back? And the answer, I think, is to do scenes like this. I think they're going to wind up doing deep fake with him, make him younger, have these conversations.
it'd be great.
And tie in the stuff that we maybe were missing in stuff like
Yeah.
Attack of the Clones.
I hope they do that because I think that part of the reason that people were disappointed is because this is supposed to be the most heartbreaking
Right.
turn in the franchise. You're supposed to be so sad.
Don't do
even
it, don't
though
do
you
it.
see
Right.
it happening. He still has these connections to Obi-Wan and Padme that make him supposed to be very lovable.
Right. Well-
which Clone Wars does a really good job of.
Clone Wars does a great job of.
As
yes.
bad as I can't stand the Clone Wars movie, he's really good. Like his
When was the
character
last-
is great in that.
When was the last time? You've probably
I
seen
watched
it a million
that-
times. How many times have you seen it?
How many times have I seen that? At least 5 times.
Oh wow. Okay. So
At least 5. And
it's-
I watched that. That was a one because
bizarre.
now it's in animated and in Star Wars, the two
Yeah.
different sections. For some reason, I say this to people. I've watched the film at least 5 times past 3 years. It just doesn't stick with me. It's an hour and a half long.
Yeah.
I can watch 4 hours of Lord of the Rings and the details stick.
But Clone Wars, the
stuff that
series.
does not stick
Have
to
you
me,
watched the Clone Wars
I'm-
series?
I was doing my rewatch. I'm
Yeah.
only in like season 2. But
Did
even in
you
the
and did you
movie,
watch it chronological order or just
Um,
how it's released?
there was a breakdown of
Yeah,
watching.
yes, yes, yes.
chronological.
Yeah.
Because that movie fits in it's like the third thing you're supposed to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
and
early.
It's early. But that's another one because I'd watched because when I saw the movie in the theaters, I couldn't stand it because I thought it was a continuation basically of what we saw in Attack of the Clones. I was like, oh. But now watching it after knowing all the stuff in Clone Wars, similar to how I felt about this movie watching it. But some of the other stuff to break down, obviously, people would lose their minds if we don't talk about the end, with Yoda and all that. Another thing that I've been is it a great and amazing moment, especially in the theater, and still to watch Yoda bouncing around with the lightsaber?
Because I watched that. Yeah. I'm watching it, this rewatch, and I'm sitting there, and it brought me back instantly. It was me and Bigelow at Universal City Walk, AMC City Walk, massive theater. This is before you could buy tickets. You had to stand in line and everything. We're dressed in our Jedi robes. The audience went nuts when Yoda did that. Now I watch him kind of like, I don't know if that really works like that. It works so well. But watching it with the full crowd,
it was a great moment.
It's insane.
Great moment.
Just the audience went nuts. You can't beat those moments.
It's just a matter if you think that he needed to do it as Yoda. Right, because Yoda never it
came out of nowhere.
It just came out of nowhere, and but it does and it doesn't because they say in that scene when they're chasing down the would-be assassin in Coruscant,
Zam Wessel.
Yeah, but Obi-Wan says to Anakin, he goes, if you were working on your wit, your saber
practice your saber work as much as your wit, you'd
rival Master Yoda. And
some say I already do.
Yeah, but. Right there, they go, I guess Yoda can throw hands.
Yeah.
You didn't know that.
But wasn't that the great stuff when you were watching these as a kid?
Yeah.
And you're just imagining
what Yoda would be like.
Just everything about the lore of Star Wars. As a kid, we forget that as we're older, and we try and pick apart. When we watch these movies as kids, and even, I'll say, the prequels, we were just fascinated. I remember when I thought, this is before, internet and everything, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Obi-Wan. Was it Obi-Wan? Is there more clones? Like, as kids, you don't think that. And you think about the Clone Wars and what it's going to be. And it's Obi-Wan in the Clone Wars. And I think then when we get it, and we're kind of like, oh, that's not what I thought it was going to be. And we thought the Mandalorians with the clones is going to be armies of Boba Fett.
Right.
And we don't get that. And then we could take it out in the movie. But you have to step back and go, wait a minute, that was my head as a kid.
Right.
With my friends around a table talking about playing their action figures. What we got is different. You need to distance yourself and go, okay, this is the story that Lucas is the creator of and telling us, let's go on this journey with him.
Yeah, that's exactly
And there's certain
the
people and their
with
internet
the
can't do that.
No,
and there's the other internet that can.
Most people can't. I feel like, especially the generation.
I haven't watched the trailer, and I'm not going to because I want to go into Spider-Man blind.
Oh.
But when that movie doesn't give them what they want with
I
their,
think Star Wars is the worst, though,
the Sinister Six and all that coming together, and they don't get that. The internet's going to MCU sucks.
Remember, but you also remember that because in the space that we're in, we always think that the pocket and the percentage of what we think is the voice. Like this is my friend who is a massive Star Wars fan, watches everything, sees everything. Was talking to me the other day, the Book of Boba Fett. He's like, "What's that?" I was like, "It's coming out in December." He's like, "Oh, I got to check that out." He doesn't pay attention to it until he's looking at his.
Good for him.
He's looking because but it's just he's not in our world. Yeah. He's not.
I've learned that you say our world recently, and I realize, and I'm a part of it. Not per se, but like when they see screenings and it's like, that's the first, and it's a masterpiece, and then the film comes out and you're just like, huh.
But I know what you're saying. What I'm saying is not even the pundits, not even the critics. I'm talking about people that are watching this show, right? These are hardcore Star Wars fans, or people who's very interested in Star Wars, right? People who watch any of the stuff that we do or pay attention to any of the stuff that we do. Those are hardcore movie fans, and that's an interest that they have. Most people love movies, right? Most people like to see them, but they're not in it like paying attention to who's directing what and what big story. And Spider-Man, like
how they were depicted in the comics.
Yes,
and then
so they're just showing up with the content that's given and enjoying the content given.
That's how I was when I first watched the prequels.
This casual fans did it. So that's the whole thing, and that's why even though there are tons of people, that's why people are like, wait, it's got to be bots if this movie if so many people are so loud about hating this particular movie, then and the audience score is so big, it's got to be bots. It's like, no, or it's just people like my wife, who was not a Star Wars fan at all, right? She didn't watch. She tried to put on the prequels for her once. She's like, I'm done, right? Even the original trilogy she thinks dated. She loves the new trilogy. She loves Rey. She loves all this stuff. She loves, and it's like she watches this. To her, she didn't need to go back and revisit them. She doesn't care, and she didn't. I watched Last Jedi with her, and I know we were talking about that in a couple episodes, but I watched that with her. After I had, like, as I mentioned, the more and more I watched the movie, the less and less I like it. But I watched, and I didn't give her any of that. watching it, and I wanted to see what she thought. She loved it. You know why? 'Cause she didn't give a crap about, well, Luke's not supposed to be like that or this or that. She didn't care.
Yeah, it's like I use this example all the time with Shannon. She loves Suicide Squad, the first one. Loves it.
Yeah.
Loves it. And I'm just like, and made almost $800 million. So there's people out there that the general
casual fans
they love it.
But to jump back to bring it all back to Attack of the Clones and watching what they're going to be able to do, and because the prequels, they had this poor responsibility, right? They were the only since that movie, the original trilogy came out, they were the only Star Wars movies.
Yeah.
And then once trilogy was it, that was it. That's all you got. You're like, well, that's not basically what you were just saying. That's not what I want. That's not what I was hoping.
Right.
That stinks. But since then,
it stinks.
But since then, all of the shows, the animated shows, the live action shows, the new movies, but all that stuff has now given you, certainly me, a new appreciation, a new love for these movies, because and I think it's one of the reasons, Steph, like last night, watching this movie, saying, I'm really enjoying watching this. I'm having fun watching it because I don't have any expectations for it. I don't have any of this. I know where it goes. I know what the characters. I know what happens in Attack of the Clones. And I know that missing, this whiny kid that's bothering me right now, I know what he does on other things. I know what he does on missions. I know how open his heart is when it comes to Ahsoka and bringing down that anger and letting it be revealed, because it happens in Clone Wars sometimes. His anger gets revealed and he pulls it back. Yeah. And then he does a really good mission.
When did is his name Glenn?
Gary Glenn Ross?
No. Oh. Tartakovsky, he did an animated.
Yes, he did.
When were those like 2 to 3 minute shorts? Those were brilliant.
Right before Revenge of the Sith.
So it was right in that little period of time.
Those are on Disney Plus.
So good.
So they were great. But they are not canon. But I actually
they're not.
No, they're not canon. But they if you watch those and then events that happen and they retcon a lot of it.
What was that bounty hunter Scourge in that film with the kind of long neck?
Yeah, I can't remember.
Silver armor.
But they do.
Those were great.
Yeah, they do some great stuff in there, and even the Asajj Ventress stuff that happens. And
those were great.
Love Asajj.
Yeah, but
voiced by Nika Futterman in the Clone Wars.
Asajj
Ventress.
Yeah, I wish she would have shown up in one of the movies. Right?
I want.
She's that's a great character.
She's sick.
Man. She's awesome.
Yeah. But that was interesting. Well, that's another conversation with her. But
I think watching this movie, though, after episode 1 made me like it more because I do think that George Lucas made changes that were talked about that needed to be. Like, there was way less Jar Jar. I feel like there was way bigger world building.
She shuts him down quick.
Shuts him down. Like, that was, like, some receptive listening, and it really made a difference for me in episode 2. So I really like that. And then I do think in terms of what episode 2 accomplished, they opened the world for Star Wars with all the different like plots that they started to see, like the seeds that they planted. Like,
did you remember how cool? Like, I remember we lost our mind when he's like Poggle the Lesser's like, take these plans. And it was the Death Star. And you're like, whoa, the Death Star! Oh my God!
Isn't that funny? It took forever to build the damn thing, and then it only took like 2 or 3 years to build the second one.
But but now watching that film. Doesn't that contradict Rogue One? Because I thought that watching is like, wait a minute.
No, it doesn't.
How does this work? Because
it plays,
Galen is the one that builds it.
Galen builds the
flaw. He wasn't part of the whole.
He helped design the flaw part of it for sure, because they had like the overall idea of what they can do, the shell of it in clones, right?
So that was the Genosians are the ones that are
because they didn't have the science on the kyber crystals and all that yet. They just had the overall shell. It was Galen it was Galen was the one who knew. Look, with the kyber crystal and the science, this thing could do this.
Could be a laser,
right? And
so is there a book or a Clone Wars that they talk about this? Is that where
the book that is? What the hell is it called? This one. It's a great book. It's the one right before Rogue One. Oh man!
Because I was watching it, and I'm watching it as not trying to be a continuity. It's like, wait a minute. There's no way that they don't address this.
Steph, are you looking it up? I think it's called Catalyst, and I think it's.
I think that's it.
Catalyst by James Luceno. And it's
that sounds familiar.
It was right before Rogue One. It's
about Galen though, right?
Yeah, and all the science and how he worked with Krennic and all.
So they had the Kaminoans or the Genosians building this mobile weapons platform for them, and they were the one that weaponized it essentially.
Yes.
Okay, It was like a huge plot point, right? I'm like, huh.
Yeah. So
What if they ever addressed that?
And remember, just because they got the plans doesn't mean they started working on it right away. You look at the end of Revenge of the Sith is when they're still really starting to craft it, and they have that thing out there, and they've got to be pushing the thing around, moving it around.
Isn't Attack of the Clones or Rogue One like 18 years after Revenge of the Sith? Yeah, because Leia's a baby.
Wait, Revenge of the Sith is
and then
around 18 years.
It's got to be 18
before
it's
New
18,
Hope, something like that. Yeah,
and they were slow in building that damn thing. Then
they had problems. Like think about certain times that certain things that are being built out in general, right?
Yeah.
That's why my joke of more so of it just once it gets blown up, they can figure out how to make the other one in like 3 years. Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
And it's not all the way complete in,
I
in
get
Jedi.
it. It's huge.
It's still a mess, and they this time they just put together the kyber crystal part of it first. But anyway, but the fight with Yoda, going back to that Yoda, and he's jumping around, he's screaming and yelling, but you also see Anakin trying to make those moves and doing what he's been doing the whole entire movie. Just go first, and he winds up getting his arm cut off.
Yeah, just
no, Anakin, wait.
I love the Yoda part. I think Yoda, I know a lot of people hated the CGI of Yoda, but he looks way better when he's moving. When it was the problem for me is when he's sitting, then he just looks like a
cartoon,
like a Roger Rabbit.
That's one of the reasons. One of the things I know there's creatures like Dex and stuff. Dex. I think they could. There's a effects department that could have done that practical and been awesome.
Yeah,
I think
today if they do that on like Mandalorian stuff, he's
George is a kid in a candy store. He finally had all the technology to do what he wanted to in the 80s, and he wanted to do it. It's his sandbox. Let him play.
And I think that because of that, you led to a lot of different things that happen. And I think that for what the prequels ultimately have done is it opens up that technology. They're a part of Star Wars now in a very different way that connects everything together. Yeah. Right? Because you have that, which ties into Clone Wars. You have the original trilogy, which can tie into Rogue One and can tie into The Mandalorian as far as look and feel. And then I think that the trilogy is something. The new trilogy, is a combination. If you look at it, there's a lot of prequel stuff going on as far as the look, like in Canto Bight stuff. That is prequel stuff when they're running through that's straight up prequel stuff. But the Clone Wars did a lot. The Attack of the Clones did a lot, and I think that there's some. The music is great. Everything.
Was it Across the Stars? That was the theme, the love theme, which was great. And there's the scenes on Naboo because they went back to Como, Italy.
Yeah,
just looks so
gorgeous.
Good.
It looks
it's just like
the location stuff. It's very noticeable.
I do take a step back when I say it because the Mandalorian with the gallery or the volume.
Yes,
I can't tell it's a set.
Right.
Yeah.
So I love being on set. And that's why I love the Robert Rodriguez episode more than anyone.
Absolutely. But Attack of the Clones, without
location.
the prequels, though, you don't get to that point because the success that those movies needed to have, the stuff
to
that they
make
needed
the
to do,
technology invested in.
all of it. And because the experiments that they took throughout it, because of how beautiful, and shooting on digital and doing all that and the experiments, it is an achievement that people don't talk about enough of what Attack of the Clones did.
They were more upset about what the story was.
Yeah, and I'm wondering though, and it is this one. Is it this? I was looking for it, but I couldn't find it. But when the Millennium Falcon shows up, it's in this one, isn't it? Or is it?
I don't think so.
It shows up, but I can't remember if it's in this one or if it's in Sith. I can't just.
What part though? I'm trying to think.
It's on Coruscant.
I was. I don't remember
that. I don't know when they do those throwing the eggs in the ships and stuff. I'm kind of like, There's so much stuff going on, and that's not what I'm looking at.
No. When one of the major criticisms of the film is how stupid the Jedi Council is.
Oh, yeah.
I agree with that because sometimes it is painful, like with Mace
Palpatine
Windu.
plays them like idiots.
They just look like idiots. But I will say that, that's not that far off from the way that certain sectors of government work. Like like Mace saying like he was a Jedi, he would never. That's out of his character.
It's not in his character. It's like
people say that they rationalize things for positions that they think hold an honorable place.
And what I love about this, and it's why, like, being in a trivia thing, I should watch more movies. I go back and watch the same ones over and over again. But I love getting like in this film. I never realized when he sits there and says, "Do we let them know about this?" Is like, no, we're already losing our power. We're not as powerful as we once were. That we'll have two enemies now. Like the Jedi were worried. Like they were losing their place in the galaxy. There, it's like I don't know why I wasn't focused on that before. I didn't think about that, but that's fascinating.
They did a lot of stupid things, man. They did
That
a lot
was
of
fascinating.
They were arrogant.
They're like, we can't tell anyone. We're losing our power. We're not the all-powerful, Jedi.
But then they goofed and they went and they basically, if Obi-Wan doesn't say anything, right? Because Obi-Wan finds they have that whole scene where he goes, Jocasta Nu is the most idiot Jedi at all of them. She's just like,
my library, you must know.
She's like,
it's not here. We don't have it.
Like, what are you talking about? He's like, well, it does exist. She's like, if it's not in the thing, it doesn't exist. Come on, George Lucas's kid, let's get out of here. so when then you have that whole moment where he goes to the younglings and the younglings
That's the planet.
Right.
Obi-Wan has.
So Yoda at that point knows that Obi-Wan's going to find this, and he finds it out, and then Obi-Wan discovers it, and what do? They tell Palpatine.
I know.
And they tell Palpatine, it's like, no, because Obi-Wan even says that he doesn't even really necessarily trust him, right?
Yeah.
It's like, keep that between yourselves. Figure out the whole thing, and then report it. What are you telling Palpatine for? And then no one can put it together that this guy's doing this?
No, they're so about the gang, and then they let Palpatine in on everything. They don't even let Anakin
everything.
in on anything.
No, and then
If
that's
something were to happen
I
to
love
you,
that, but I love that Palpatine plays off that.
Yeah.
And I love where he's just like basically telling me I see him becoming more powerful than Master Yoda and all that. Like playing this. I wanted more scenes like that, like stuff like that. I wanted to see more of that, but I was very pleasantly surprised rewatching the movie that I wanted to be watching it. It didn't take away any of the problems that I had with it, but it also made me find new things that I loved about it.
Yeah, it's Star Wars to me, and like some things I watch, like I don't think I've ever seen a poorly designed ship in Star Wars. Like the amount
that Naboo cruiser is gorgeous.
Yeah, and it's so different from anything.
Yeah.
Like remember, even in Phantom Menace, we'd seen the old trilogy, the beat up ships and everything, and then that thing comes in, and you're like, what the hell is that thing? But it makes sense. They were artists, the people of Naboo. And it's like, that's brilliant.
Beauty.
Like the Kaminoans, just the design of their bodies and everything is
They looked
fascinating.
great.
They look like
too.
aliens
And I'll
that we
say
always
this.
thought were like. So that reminds me of like the type of aliens that you're always thinking. Like Roswell would be one of them, right? And it's like those are the type they would be experimenting on Earthlings.
And Ben Burt, his sound design and the seismic charge. I remember in the audience watching that, and that's why when in Mandalorian when they used it again, everyone was like, the seismic charges again. Because I mean, it's a sound effect, but it's just poof,
it's effective,
like
It's sick.
It's great,
Brilliant.
and also shows you why Obi-Wan just.
And I didn't get to talk about this because I wasn't here last week, but the pod race, the audio in the pod race,
it's amazing.
is incredible.
I got to play the pod race for you on this TV.
It's incredible.
It's incredible. It's just like I shut the doors and just blasted it, and it was like I felt like I was on Tatooine.
Yeah, he's just. I mean, to his detriment, he does go the technical a little more.
Yeah, and but
it's
you've got to go
Let
in.
him.
You've got to go into the prequels. Rewatching the prequels. Knowing that. And like I said, I really do believe because there's so much other material out there that dives into story and characters and all that stuff that you can watch these movies and just really enjoy them more so than
like,
before.
I watched when I'm watching Attack of the Clones. It's kind of like now with Endgame when I go back and watch Dark World. It really makes Dark World a better film.
Yeah, I don't mind that movie.
It does.
Yeah,
It makes it
because it
much
makes it
a better film
matter.
because they went back and it's mattered, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, that's why this and this and this, and that characters now with Loki and Thor, you go back to them. So with the Attack of the Clones, when I go back, there's still cringeworthy stuff, but it's just, and that's why I really love Phantom Menace.
Well, but
I love that movie.
I just do think that I think the main reason that I wind up enjoying it a lot is because I said, do I like this story? And the answer is 100% yes.
Yeah.
Everything about the story makes a lot of sense. Everything about the manipulation from Palpatine, everything about the journey from Anakin, the pain,
And
the
fun.
relationship, everything that is there, the relationship between him and Obi-Wan, it's all there. And because if it's like, oh, well, they didn't really, because you can say, even we've said it in this show so far, well, they could have done this, this, and this and delivered on that, but they do in the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
They do. They after that stuff. If you haven't, well, what if he would have just done this and this, and he would have been more likable? Watch the Clone Wars because it adds into that. He gets all that stuff.
I'll tell you, as a Star Wars fan, you got to be happy the fact that you do get all that. Like, I would kill to know what Zack Snyder's future for the DC would have been like if they would have done an animated series to follow. Like there was talk of doing our movies. Like we're not going to get that ever. It's done.
Right.
But to Star Wars to know that for 40 years now, and they go back and they are able to tell the story that fits into it.
Yeah. I saw
It's
somebody
just so
comment
damn
on, I can't remember if it was maybe on the
It's just amazing.
last episode we did, but somebody was like, well, I don't know if they should be connecting stuff to the other parts of the universe, because it seems like they're just trying to make up for stuff. And it's like, no, that's the whole point. There's so many, it's history.
Yeah.
There's history of the, like how, like, because we talked about the cloning, right? And how that's the main thing. So let's talk, well, I guess we did talk about it a little bit more, but I want to make sure that we can try to do that in every one of our rewatches. How will this movie tie into any of the series that are happening
now?
And for me, there's two ways that I think that this does this. First of all, the Obi-Wan, Anakin stuff, the combination, the de-aging, any of those relationships tie back into stuff that was happening on Geonosis and all of that. That could tie into the Obi-Wan series. What else could tie in is Acolyte stuff, right? Like what
That eventual series.
what was going on in Acolyte leading up to more manipulation, how Palpatine was taught, how the Sith code was supposed to happen, what the eventual plan would be. But Steph, what do you think? How will this tie in at all to some of the new series?
Yeah, I think definitely with like Bad Batch, I think it's just
Right.
Oh, yeah.
like making a stand that they're focusing on the cloning and the history of it and what's happening, and maybe that ties more into Palpatine, what we saw in The Rise of Skywalker, and kind of filling in the whole like Snoke and filling in those gaps there. And I don't know, maybe with Boba we get more like a flashback or something that connected him to his father dying.
That's right. That's a great point also. Obviously, the Boba Fett connection, all that, and how much goes into, because the book of Boba Fett, we think, what makes sense is that each episode is kind of like a chapter in his life.
Yeah.
Kind of almost
The
what they do
book
with the
of Boba
Indie.
Fett.
Well, yeah, like the Indie Chronicles. Remember that, like something like that. And they do that, and you could have. And that's why there was rumors that there's stuff that's going to be in between Empire leading to Jedi. There's going to be the Sarlacc pit, and if we're getting this guy, this de-aging guy, that's doing not de-aging, the deep fake guy, then you do some more stuff.
Or do they bring back the
Daniel Logan,
or the other guy that was the clones in Attack of the Clones?
He was the same guy.
No, he was the middle. You know, when they're eating dinner,
That was Tamora
and he
Morrison,
looks up.
wasn't it?
No, that was a different actor.
Are you sure?
Oh, really?
Yeah, the actor when he's sitting there.
I
and
know
he's
which one you
eating.
mean when they're looking over. That's
not
Are you
Tamora Morrison. Go look again. It's a different actor who looks like that.
I thought they were like kind of changed. I thought they just changed Tamora Morrison up.
He looked like Captain Typho, the actor that played Typho.
He did look like, for sure, he did.
He's younger. It's not
Yeah.
Tamora Morrison.
I thought maybe they
No.
kind of changed that. Or maybe, but
I'll look it up right now.
I don't know
Keep
if they're
talking.
I don't
Keep
know if they're
talking.
going to do that. But we're gonna keep talking to the end, which is now. Because
But one thing I want to say,
Yeah.
you're going to talk about, everything tying together.
Yeah.
It's for me these rewatches, and now because we're deep with the Clone Wars and Bad Batch and everything, it shows me how fan servicey the new trilogy was. Where it's just like, oh, they were trying to connect everything, and it's not gonna. It's weird. It has a weird feeling. I don't have the feeling that I have with these new the original prequels.
Yeah.
Like it's like it just feels the world.
Well,
That felt like
but to be fair though, it's the same. I think it's the same thing that we were just talking about here. We're so fresh off these new movies, right?
we are.
There are some people like Steph who grew up with the prequels. To her, she's always going to have a really special attachment to those movies because that's how she really fell in love with Star Wars, was through the prequels and all that. I have the OT. Mike, same thing. There are kids that are coming up with this new trilogy that are going to fall in love with Star Wars because of it in general. I also believe because there's so much material, and let's say, Mike, there's a series down the line 10 years from now that connects the new trilogy with this series, and because of the series, it starts to make the new trilogy make a little bit more sense or have some more fun. It's all possible. That's what I think that the Clone Wars have done for Attack of the Clones. That's what I think, even The Mandalorian, when you look at some of this cloning stuff that they're doing, I don't agree with people when they go, oh, they're just trying to make sense of it. That might be the case. But if they're doing that and it makes sense to the story, it's not just, they just threw that in there. It doesn't make any sense. If they throw it in there but it makes sense, continue to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, cloning is such an integral part
Yeah.
of the wars of Star Wars. So it makes sense that they would put that in shows, especially in that era
100%.
of the Empire. Yeah, so I don't agree with that either.
Well, Mike, I don't know if you found it, but it doesn't matter anymore because
What doesn't matter.
We ran out of time.
we ran out of time.
still
So
looking.
listen,
I don't know.
This was a lot of fun. I liked talking about Attack of the Clones, and we're going to be talking about Revenge of the Sith, and that's next week. That's next Friday. So make sure, if you like what we're doing here, obviously, thank you for subscribing to the new channel. If you have not downloaded these episodes on podcast form, please do that. That is very helpful for us. It continues to support the show. So please, please, please head on over. The link is in the description. You can just go to the description, check that out, and make sure that you follow us, rate. If it's Spotify, same thing. And leave comments and let us know exactly what you think about this particular episode, what you want to hear more of in Revenge of the Sith, any comments, any questions that you have. Thank you guys so much. Thank you to Mike. Thank you to Steph. And we will see you guys next week on Sith Council. Oh, check it out, 2 p.m. today. Mike Kalinowski, Chandru Dandapani, 2 p.m. on the Schmodown channel. Links also in the description. Peace out.